They told you it was your fault. They told you to count your carbs, to eat less, to move more, to take your medication on time every single day. And you listened. You followed the plan. You cut the sugar. You skipped the foods you loved. So explain this to me. Why is your fasting glucose still climbing? Why did your A1C go up again? Why does it feel like the harder you try, the worse it gets? Something doesn't add up. And deep down, you already know it. Because this was never just about what you eat. And it was never about how much you eat. It's about something far more dangerous. Something almost nobody is talking about. The speed. The speed at which sugar hits your bloodstream after a meal. That's where the real damage happens. That's where your blood vessels take the hit. That's where the silent destruction begins meal after meal, day after day. And here's the part that should make you angry. Because there's a simple, dirt-cheap, 5,000-year-old food that can physically slow that process down inside your body. Not with a drug. Not with a prescription. Not with a $40 supplement bottle. With a gel. A natural gel that forms inside your gut and literally blocks sugar from flooding your bloodstream too fast. And almost nobody is telling you about it. Not because it doesn't work, but because there's no money in it. Think about that. The supplement industry makes billions, selling you pills your body barely absorbs. 30% absorption, if you're lucky. The rest? Flushed, gone, wasted. But this tiny seed, smaller than a grain of rice, is absorbed almost completely because it's real food. And it doesn't just work in one way. It hits your blood sugar from multiple angles at the same time. While you've been focusing on cutting carbs, you've been completely blind to the real mechanism causing the damage. And that's not your fault. That's what happens when the system is designed to treat symptoms, not explain causes. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what they didn't. The real mechanism, the clinical data, the mistakes that cancel the benefits completely, and most importantly, why this one simple food might be the missing piece in your blood sugar control. Stay with me, because the number one benefit, the one I saved for last, changes everything you think you know about diabetes. And once you see it, you won't look at your meals the same way again. Let's clear something up first. Because if you walk into this thinking the wrong way, you will miss the real benefit completely. And honestly, a lot of people already have. So let me shut down 3 of the most dangerous myths right now. Myth number 1. This seed can cure diabetes. No. Stop. That's not just wrong, it's dangerous. There is no food on this planet that cures diabetes. Anyone using that word cure is either misinformed or trying to sell you something. What the science actually shows is much more specific. This seed helps reduce post-meal glucose spikes. That's it. It doesn't erase the disease. It doesn't replace your treatment. It gives you control over one critical moment. The moment right after you eat, when your blood sugar rises the fastest and the damage begins. It's not a miracle. It's a tool. A powerful one, but still a tool. Myth number 2. You need to eat a huge amount for it to work. Also wrong. And this one is everywhere, especially online. People making massive bowls, loading half a cup into smoothies, forcing it down like more equals better. It doesn't. Clinical trials have already answered this. Doses as low as 7 grams, that's about 1 teaspoon, have been shown to significantly reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes. 7 grams. Not a cup. Not a bowl. Not some overloaded superfood recipe. More is not better. More is just unnecessary. And in some cases, uncomfortable. Myth number 3. Just take your medication. That's enough. This one is more subtle, and honestly, more dangerous. Because it sounds reasonable. Look, metformin is a good drug. It's one of the most studied, most reliable medications we have. But here's what most people don't understand. Metformin works primarily in your liver. It reduces how much glucose your body produces. What it does not do, at least not in any meaningful way, is slow down how fast sugar enters your bloodstream from food. That happens in your gut, in your small intestine. And that step, that critical moment when sugar floods into your blood, that's a completely different mechanism, a completely different stage. And for most people, it's completely unmanaged. That's the gap, the blind spot, the part of the process your medication was never designed to control. And that is exactly where this seed steps in. So what is this seed? Not a drug, not a supplement, not some exotic powder shipped from a lab you've never heard of. It's chia seeds, Salvia hispanica, a tiny black and white seed that most people walk past in the grocery store without a second thought. And that right there is the problem. Because this is not new. This is not a trend. This is not something invented last year and pushed by influencers. This seed has been used for over 5,000 years. The Aztecs didn't call it a superfood. They called it fuel. Warriors carried it into battle. 1 tablespoon mixed with water could sustain energy for hours, without crashes, without spikes, without fatigue. And now, it sits on a shelf for about $3 a bag. $3. Let that sink in. Because at the exact same time, the supplement industry is making billions. Billions selling you capsules, powders, and extracts that promise control, promise stability, promise results. But here's what they don't advertise. Most supplements are absorbed at around 30% efficiency, sometimes less, which means 70% of what you're paying for never even gets used. It passes straight through your body, unused, unabsorbed, wasted. 70 cents of every dollar gone. And they know this. They've always known this. Because your body wasn't designed to process isolated compounds, pressed into tablets. Your body evolved to process real food. And that's where chia is different. Chia isn't delivering one isolated ingredient. It delivers fiber, protein, omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, all at once, in the exact ratios your body recognizes, which means your digestive system doesn't fight it. It uses it efficiently, almost completely. No synthetic extraction, no artificial concentration, no wasted absorption, just food. And here's the part that should bother you. You've been trained to believe that the more expensive the solution, the more effective it must be. That real results require prescriptions, require monthly refills, require complicated stacks of supplements. But this sits quietly in a bag that costs less than your morning coffee. No marketing machine, no sales rep pushing it into clinics, no billion-dollar campaign behind it. And because of that, it gets ignored, overlooked, dismissed as just a seed. While people continue spending hundreds, sometimes thousands, trying to fix a problem that this tiny ancient food was already helping solve thousands of years ago. And once you understand what it actually does inside your body, you'll start to see that this isn't just another health food. This is a mechanism, a missing piece. And what it does next is where things start to get very real. Benefit number 7, omega-3 fatty acids, and why this matters more than you think. Now, I know what you're thinking. Omega-3? That's for your heart, right? Cholesterol, maybe inflammation, but blood sugar? Stay with me, because this is where most people miss the connection completely. The real problem behind rising blood sugar, especially after 60, isn't just what you eat. It's what your body can no longer hear. Let me explain. When you eat, your body releases insulin. That insulin is a signal, a message telling your cells, open up, let the glucose in. But in many people, that message never lands. Not because insulin isn't there, not because your body isn't trying, but because something is interfering with the signal. That something is chronic inflammation. Low-grade, silent, constant. The kind you don't feel. The kind that builds over years, even decades. At the cellular level, inflammatory molecules, cytokines, disrupt the communication between insulin and your cells. They jam the signal. So now insulin is knocking, but your cells don't respond. Glucose stays in your bloodstream, and your numbers go up, not because you ate more, but because the signal got lost. Here's the analogy I want you to remember. It's like trying to make a phone call during a thunderstorm. The phone works. The tower works. But the noise, the interference is so strong that the message doesn't get through clearly. That's what inflammation does to insulin. Now this is where omega-3s come in. Chia seeds are one of the richest plant sources of ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, a form of omega-3 that directly targets inflammation. Not overnight, not instantly, but steadily, quietly. They reduce key inflammatory markers: C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, TNF-alpha. They don't amplify the signal. They remove the noise. And when the noise goes down, your insulin starts working again. Not perfectly, but better, more efficiently, more clearly. And here's something most people never hear. Your body cannot produce omega-3 on its own. There is no backup system, no internal reserve. If you're not getting it from food, you are running at a disadvantage. And let's be honest, most people over 60 are not eating fatty fish 3 times a week, which means this deficiency is more common than anyone admits. So while this may be number 7 on the list, it's not small. It's foundational. Because if your system is constantly inflamed, nothing else you do, not your diet, not your medication, not your exercise, will work the way it's supposed to. This is where the repair begins. And what builds on top of this is where things start to accelerate. Benefit number 6, complete protein and the hidden reason your blood sugar keeps rising. This one surprises people, because most people think chia seeds are just fiber, something for digestion, something for gut health. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Chia seeds contain complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids. That alone is rare for a plant. But that's not the real story. Here's the part you need to hear. After you eat carbohydrates, your body has to move that glucose out of your bloodstream. So where does it go? Not your liver. Not your fat, at least not at first. 70 to 80% of that glucose goes into your muscles. Your skeletal muscle is your primary glucose disposal system. Let me say that again. Your muscles are the biggest sink for blood sugar in your entire body. Now, here's the twist. After the age of 60, you start losing muscle. Not slowly. 3 to 8% per decade. It's called sarcopenia, and most people don't even notice it happening. You don't feel it. You don't see it clearly. But internally, your glucose storage system is shrinking. So now think about what happens after you eat. Same meal, same amount of carbs, same medication, but fewer muscle cells, fewer receptors, less space to absorb glucose. So where does the sugar go? It stays in your blood, and your numbers go up. Not because you ate more, not because you made a mistake, but because your body has nowhere to put it. Here's the line I want you to remember. It's not that you're eating wrong. It's that you're losing the place where glucose is supposed to go. And almost no one talks about this. Doctors adjust medication. They look at A1C. They change dosages. But they rarely ask, how much muscle have you lost in the last 5 years? Because that number changes everything. Now this is where chia comes in. The protein in chia helps support muscle maintenance. Not replace real meals, let's be clear. This isn't a steak. It's not a magic fix. But taken consistently, it helps preserve the very tissue that controls your blood sugar after every meal. And there's a second layer most people miss. Protein slows digestion. When you eat chia with carbohydrates, it delays gastric emptying, which means glucose doesn't hit your bloodstream all at once. Not a flood, a trickle. So now you have 2 effects happening at the same time. You're protecting your muscle, your storage system, and you're slowing the speed of incoming glucose. That combination That's powerful. And what comes next goes even deeper, right to the organ that produces insulin itself. Benefit number 5. Protection for your pancreas, the organ quietly failing behind the scenes. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you thought about your pancreas? Probably never. Most people don't, until something goes wrong. But this small organ, about 6 inches long, hidden behind your stomach, controls one of the most important processes in your body: insulin production. And that process depends on tiny, fragile cells called beta cells. These are the cells that actually make insulin, the cells that keep your blood sugar in check after every meal. Now here's the problem. After the age of 60, those cells are under constant attack. Not from sugar directly, but from something far more destructive: free radicals, unstable molecules, highly reactive, relentless. They move through your body like microscopic vandals, damaging everything they touch: proteins, cell membranes, even DNA. And your beta cells? They are especially vulnerable. Over time, this damage accumulates, year after year. And slowly, quietly, your pancreas starts producing less insulin. Not because it's lazy, not because it stopped working, but because the machinery is breaking down. Here's the image I want you to see. Your pancreas is a factory. Your beta cells are the machines. And free radicals? They're rust, corrosion, eating away at the system, piece by piece, until one day the output drops and your blood sugar rises. Now here's where chia steps in. Chia seeds contain a powerful combination of polyphenols, natural antioxidant compounds, chlorogenic acid, caffeic acid, quercetin, K-ampherol. You don't need to memorize those names. Just understand what they do. They neutralize free radicals. They intercept the damage before it reaches your beta cells. Think of it like this. If oxidative stress is rust, then these compounds are rust protection. They don't rebuild what's already broken. Let's be clear about that. Destroyed beta cells are extremely difficult to restore. The science is very clear on this. But what these compounds can do is protect what you still have, preserve the function that remains, slow the decline. And that changes the trajectory. Because every functioning beta cell you keep alive is another unit of insulin your body can still produce naturally. And here's what should make you stop and think. You can buy one of these antioxidants, like quercetin, as a supplement for $20 or $30 a bottle. Or you can eat 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and get multiple protective compounds at once, working together, the way your body was designed to process them. No isolation, no imbalance, no wasted synergy. And while this benefit sits at number 5, what comes next is where the science becomes measurable and impossible to ignore. Benefit number 4, reduction of post-meal blood sugar, backed by real clinical evidence. Now we move out of theory into data, because this is where most people start paying attention. Not opinions, not trends, measured results. Let's start with one of the most respected names in this space. Researchers at the University of Toronto, led by Dr. Vladimir Vuksan, have been studying dietary fiber and blood sugar response for over 2 decades. In a randomized controlled trial, they tested chia seeds against standard control meals. The result? A significant reduction in postprandial glucose spikes. The rise in blood sugar that happens within 1 to 2 hours after eating. Not a small effect, a measurable one. And more importantly, the mechanism wasn't chemical. It wasn't stimulating insulin. It wasn't blocking enzymes. It was physical. The gel formed by chia slowed the movement of glucose from the gut into the bloodstream. Now fast forward. A dose-response study in 2013 tested different amounts: 7 grams, 15 grams, 24 grams. All 3 doses showed improvement. Let that sink in. Even the lowest dose, about 1 teaspoon, produced a measurable effect. This is not an all-or-nothing intervention. It scales, predictably. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. A study out of Spain, using a dynamic gastrointestinal simulation system, essentially an artificial digestive tract, measured how much glucose actually becomes available for absorption. With chia mucilage added, up to a 50% reduction in glucose bioaccessibility. 50%. That's not theory. That's controlled simulation of what happens inside your gut. But now I'm going to tell you something most people won't. Because honesty matters more than hype. A meta-analysis combining multiple trials found that chia seeds did not significantly reduce fasting blood glucose, or HbA1c. And that's important, because it tells us exactly what chia does and what it doesn't do. This is not a fasting glucose solution. It's not a replacement for your medication. It targets one specific window, after you eat, and if you're over 60, that's where the real damage happens. Every spike after a meal is like a wave crashing against your blood vessels, your nerves, your kidneys, your eyes, over and over again. Silent, repetitive, cumulative. Chia doesn't stop the system. It doesn't shut down glucose. It changes the speed, and that changes everything. Here's the line I want you to remember. It doesn't block the river. It turns it into a stream. And over time, that difference between a flood and a stream is the difference between damage and control. Benefit number 3, blood pressure reduction, and the silent loop that's destroying your body. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Wait, this is about blood sugar. Why are we talking about blood pressure? Because they are not separate problems. They are the same problem, just showing up in different places. And if you don't understand this connection, you're only seeing half the picture. Let me show you what's really happening inside your body. It starts with elevated blood sugar. Not extreme, not dramatic, just slightly high, consistently. That excess glucose begins to damage your blood vessels. Slowly, silently. The inner lining, your endothelium, starts to break down. The vessels lose flexibility. They become stiff, narrow, less responsive. And what happens when your blood vessels stiffen? Your blood pressure rises. Now you're dealing with hypertension. But it doesn't stop there. Because those same damaged vessels are responsible for feeding your kidneys. And your kidneys? They are not just filters. They actively regulate glucose balance in your body. So when blood pressure damages your kidneys, your ability to control blood sugar gets worse. Now your glucose rises even higher. And that higher glucose causes more vessel damage, which raises your blood pressure further, which damages your kidneys more. And the cycle continues, over and over again, year after year. No alarms, no pain, no warning signs, until something breaks. A stroke, kidney failure, a cardiovascular event that came out of nowhere. But it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from this, a silent destruction loop. High sugar damage vessels, high blood pressure, kidney damage, higher sugar. Round and round. Now, here's where chia becomes more than just a blood sugar food. Because it doesn't hit one point in the loop. It applies pressure to multiple points at once. The fiber slows glucose spikes, reducing the initial damage to blood vessels. The omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation, helping protect the vessel walls from further breakdown. And naturally occurring minerals like potassium and magnesium support vascular relaxation, which means your blood vessels stay flexible instead of turning rigid. And that flexibility, that's what keeps blood pressure under control. Clinical trials have actually shown this. In people with type 2 diabetes, regular chia consumption led to significant reductions in systolic blood pressure. The top number, the one most closely linked to stroke risk. And this was on top of existing treatment, not instead of. Which means this isn't replacing your system. It's reinforcing it, interrupting the cycle, slowing the loop. Because once that loop is running unchecked, it doesn't correct itself. It accelerates. And what comes next is the mechanism that makes all of this possible in the first place. Benefit number 2, the mucilage gel, the mechanism that changes everything. This is where chia stops being just a seed and starts becoming a system. Because what you're about to understand is not about nutrients. It's about physics. When chia seeds come into contact with liquid, water, saliva, stomach acid, they don't just soften. They transform. They expand into a thick, viscous substance called mucilage, a gel. And this gel doesn't stay in your glass. It forms inside your digestive tract, right where glucose absorption happens. Now, I want you to picture this. Inside your small intestine, There's a thin lining where sugar passes into your bloodstream. Normally, glucose moves across that surface quickly, almost instantly, like running across an empty room. No resistance, no delay. But when chia gel is present, that surface is no longer empty. It's covered, coated, protected by a physical barrier, a thick, gel-like layer that glucose has to pass through before it can reach your blood. Here's the analogy. Walking across an empty room takes seconds, but walking through waist-deep mud? Same destination, same distance. But now it takes minutes. Effort, resistance, delay. That's exactly what this gel does to sugar in your gut. It doesn't stop absorption. It slows it down. And that difference between fast and slow is everything. Because blood sugar damage is not just about how much glucose you have. It's about how fast it hits your system. Now let's compare this to medication. Drugs like acarbose work by blocking enzymes, specifically alpha-glucosidase. They prevent carbohydrates from breaking down into glucose. That's a chemical intervention. Chia doesn't do that. It doesn't interfere with digestion. It allows the breakdown to happen, and then controls what happens next. Absorption. That's a completely different stage of the process. And this is the insight most people miss. These two approaches are not competing. They are complementary. One slows down the creation of glucose. The other slows down its entry into the bloodstream. Different mechanisms, same goal, which means under proper medical guidance, they can potentially work together, not replacing each other, but reinforcing each other. Layering control. And here's why this matters. Because most treatments focus on one pathway, one angle, one intervention at a time. But real control comes from stacking mechanisms, from slowing the system at multiple points. And what you're looking at here is a natural physical barrier that works every single time you eat it. No stimulation, no dependency, no chemical override, just physics. Consistent, predictable, repeatable. And what happens when you combine this mechanism with everything else chia does? That's where we reach number one. Benefit number one, multi-mechanism control, the part no one ever explains to you. This is it. The reason this seed stands above everything else, because every other solution you've heard about, every supplement, every blood sugar hack, every trending ingredient, works through one mechanism, one pathway, one angle. And that's the limitation. Berberine activates AMPK. Cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity. Chromium helps glucose transport. Each one does something, but only one thing. Now look at chia. In a single serving, from a single tablespoon, you're activating at least 5 different mechanisms at the same time. Let's break them down. First, the mucilage gel. You already saw this. A physical barrier that slows glucose absorption as it moves through your intestine. Not chemical, physical. Second, soluble fiber. This delays gastric emptying. Food leaves your stomach more slowly, which means carbohydrates are released into your system gradually. Less surge, less spike. Third, protein. Not just for muscle. Protein triggers satiety hormones, signals that tell your brain you're full. So you eat less without forcing it. No counting, no restriction. Your body regulates itself. Fourth, omega-3 fatty acids. They reduce chronic inflammation, the hidden interference that blocks insulin signaling. Less noise, clearer communication, better glucose control at the cellular level. And fifth, this is the one that changes everything. Fermentation in your gut. When chia fiber reaches your large intestine, your gut bacteria break it down into short-chain fatty acids, specifically butyrate. And butyrate does something powerful. It stimulates the release of GLP-1. Now, if that sounds familiar, it should. Because GLP-1 is the exact same hormone pathway, targeted by drugs like Ozempic. Same pathway, same biological target, different approach. Now let's be very clear. A tablespoon of chia is not equal to an injection. Not even close. The magnitude is different. The effect size is different. But the pathway, the mechanism, it's the same system inside your body being activated. And that leads to a question most people never ask. Why are you only targeting one pathway when your body is breaking down across many? Because real dysfunction is not one problem. It's multiple failures happening at once. And real control comes from addressing multiple mechanisms simultaneously. That's what chia does. Not perfectly, not magically, but strategically. And here's the line that should stay with you. The same biological pathway as a $1,000 a month drug, activated by a $3 bag of seeds. No hype, no exaggeration. Just a system most people were never taught to see. Now, stop. Before you go out tomorrow, buy a bag of chia seeds and start throwing them into everything you eat. You need to hear this part. Because done wrong, this can backfire. And not just a little. In some cases, dangerously. There are 4 mistakes that completely destroy the benefit. And in rare situations, can even put you in the hospital. Let's go through them. Mistake number 1. Eating chia seeds dry. This is the biggest one. And yes, it has sent people to the emergency room. Chia seeds are designed to absorb liquid. That's how the gel forms. That's the entire mechanism we just talked about. But if you eat them dry, just a spoonful straight into your mouth, they don't stay small. They expand. Inside your throat. Inside your esophagus. They can swell and form a blockage. A real obstruction. Difficult to swallow. Sometimes requiring medical removal. And here's the worst part. You don't even get the benefit. No gel forms properly. No slowing of glucose. Just risk with 0 reward. Always soak them. Even 5 to 10 minutes in water is enough to activate the gel. No exceptions. Mistake number 2. Taking chia with blood-thinning medication. This one is quieter, but just as important. Chia seeds contain omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3s have a mild blood-thinning effect. Normally, that's beneficial. But if you're already taking medications like warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, you are already affecting your blood's clotting ability. Stacking chia on top of that can push things too far, too thin, and that increases the risk of bruising, internal bleeding, in serious cases, hemorrhage. This doesn't mean you can't use chia. It means you must inform your doctor. This is not optional. This is a real interaction. Mistake number 3. Mixing chia with high-sugar drinks. This one completely defeats the purpose. I've seen people mix chia with fruit juice, sweetened smoothies, bottled healthy drinks with 30-40 grams of sugar, and then wonder why their glucose spikes. Yes, the gel slows absorption, but it doesn't cancel volume. If you pour sugar into your system, you're still flooding your bloodstream, just slightly slower. It's like putting a speed bump in front of a truck going full speed. It helps, but it doesn't stop the crash. Use water. Unsweetened almond milk. Keep it clean. Mistake number 4. Using it inconsistently. This one is subtle, but it kills results more than anything else. 1 tablespoon on a random day does nothing. Clinical studies that showed real benefits, they ran for weeks to months. Consistent intake. Daily exposure. That's how your body adapts. This is not a one-time fix. It's a system, and without consistency, there is no effect. Get these 4 things wrong, and you won't just lose the benefit. You'll completely misunderstand what this seed is capable of. Get them right. And now, you're finally using it the way it was meant to work. Now here's the part almost nobody sees coming. Because everything we've talked about so far happens during the day. What you eat, how your body absorbs it, how glucose enters your bloodstream. And maybe you're thinking, okay, I can control that. You change your meals. You add chia. You follow the steps. You do everything right. But then something strange happens. You wake up the next morning, and your blood sugar is still high. Sometimes even higher than the night before. And that's when the confusion starts. Because you didn't eat anything wrong. You didn't snack. You didn't cheat. So what happened? Here's the truth. You control your blood sugar during the day. But at night, your body can work against you. Silently. Automatically. Without you even knowing. There's a phenomenon most people with diabetes have never been properly told about. It's called the dawn phenomenon, and it happens between roughly 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. While you're asleep, your body releases stress hormones, cortisol, growth hormone, signals that prepare you to wake up. Sounds normal, right? But here's the problem. Those hormones trigger your liver to release stored glucose into your bloodstream. A surge. right in the middle of the night. No food, no carbs, no warning, just glucose rising. And if your insulin response is already impaired, that glucose stays in your blood. So you wake up with elevated numbers, even though you did everything right the day before. And this is where it gets worse. Because for many people over 60, this isn't just occasional. It's a pattern, a hidden cycle, what I call the midnight insulin trap. Your body is essentially working on a different schedule than you think. You manage input during the day, but overnight, your internal system resets the conditions. And if you don't understand that system, you end up chasing your numbers without ever fixing the cause. This is why so many people feel stuck. They try harder. They eat cleaner. They follow instructions perfectly. But they're only managing half the equation. Daytime control without nighttime strategy is incomplete. And that's exactly what keeps the cycle going. Because blood sugar is not just about what you eat. It's about when your body releases glucose, even without food. Now imagine this for a second. You combine everything you've learned so far, slowing absorption during the day, with a system that stabilizes what happens at night. That's when things start to change. Not temporarily, but consistently. And in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that system. Now here's the bottom line. You don't need another complicated system. You don't need a stack of expensive supplements. And you don't need to feel like you're losing control. You need something simple, something consistent, and something that actually works with your biology. So let's make this practical. Here's your 5-step action plan. No confusion. No overwhelm. Step 1. Buy chia seeds. Any grocery store. Doesn't matter where. Black or white, no real difference. You're looking at about $3 to $6 a bag. That's it. Step 2. Start with 1 tablespoon per day. Put it in a glass. Add water about 6 to 8 ounces. Stir it. Wait 5 to 10 minutes. You'll see the gel form. Drink it 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal. That's your starting point. Step 3. Increase to 2 tablespoons. After about a week, if your body tolerates it well, move to 2. Split them if you want. 1 before your main meal. 1 added into breakfast oatmeal, yogurt, smoothie. But always remember, never dry, always with liquid. Step 4. Test your blood sugar correctly. Not just fasting. That's where most people go wrong. You want to measure postprandial glucose. About 2 hours after a meal. That's where chia actually does its job. That's where you'll see the difference. Step 5. Track your own data. This is where you take control. Not guesswork. Not assumptions. Write down 3 things every day. Your energy after meals. Your cravings between meals. And your blood sugar readings if you measure them. Because your body is the real study. Your results matter more than anything else. Now step back for a second. Look at what you're actually doing here. You're not just adding a seed to your diet. You're activating 5 biological mechanisms at once. Slowing absorption, improving insulin signaling, protecting your pancreas, supporting muscle, and influencing hormone pathways, all from one simple change. Here's the truth most people never hear. A small change can create a massive shift if it targets the right mechanisms. And this does. You don't need more medication. You need more understanding. Because once you understand how your body actually works, you stop fighting it and you start working with it. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of this surprised you the most? Was it the gel mechanism? The GLP-1 connection? The muscle loss effect? Drop it in the comments. Which benefit shocked you? I read every single one. And your answers shape what I make next. And if you think this was eye-opening, you need to watch what comes next. I made a video about 7 everyday foods that quietly increase your stroke risk. One of them, you're probably eating every single day. And it has nothing to do with salt. That video is on your screen right now. Watch it. Because what you don't know is what puts you at risk. Take care of your body tonight. And I'll see you in the next one.